world is heating up due to climate change, and it's even affecting LEGO minifigures. If you want to create an effect of a melting LEGO character, then this is the tutorial for you. I'm going to explain my entire process and walk you through how I have achieved this melting LEGO result. Step 1. Choose a LEGO figurine. Anyone will do, whichever one you want to melt into a puddle. Step 2. We need a stunt double. And no, I'm not talking about a second LEGO figure here. We are going to make one out of clay, to match up as closely as possible to our original minifigure. For this, we will need some clay, and I highly recommend modelling clay by Jovi, because it feels nice, the colours blend well, and it's just the right firmness to sculpt with. I bought this big multi-pack box for cheap because it was damaged, but there's nothing wrong with the clay inside. So check out sellers on Amazon to see if you can snag yourself a good bargain too. Before we sculpt though, we need to carefully match the colours on the minifigure by mixing different clays together. There's no secret formula, it's a little bit of trial and error, but basic colour theory works. If you want a colour to be a little bit darker, try adding in a bit of blue or brown or even black. Something lighter, maybe add some white or yellow. If you want the colour to be warmer, try a bit of red. I always suggest adding a little bit less than you think you might need, because you can always add more, but you can't take away. When you are happy with your colours, you need to sculpt a body double as neatly as you can. Use your actual minifigure as a scale guide. Soon you will have a full clay version of your LEGO character, and then we're ready to animate. Step 3. For the animation, place your real LEGO minifigure in the scene for your first picture. You then want to swap this out for your clay doppelganger. To melt them, begin with small movements, and also make one side of the character melt first. I chose to begin with the right arm and to get my minifigure to melt towards the right hand side as well. If you make both sides melt simultaneously, things just won't look so natural. Make sure to have some spare clay in your custom colour mixes on hand as well. This is really helpful to add in at the base of your character to start creating a puddle. You want to make sure that you add a little bit more clay each frame so that the edges of the puddle are slowly creeping outwards. Make sure to do this on every picture so that the spread of puddle is consistent. You can also experiment with adding the extra clay to create drips of your character. If your character has a different colour torso to their legs, you can make the torso drip down the legs, which can look quite nice. When both arms are off, you can speed the melt up a bit. Feel free to gradually squash the body section down or pull down at the clay with your fingers to just make things look a bit more drippy. Make the head fall off as well, and all these little pieces are going to add to that growing puddle at the bottom. Don't be afraid to let the colours mix together, this really does add to the effect. You don't have to finish with a completely flat puddle either, just stop when you feel like it looks melted enough. You can see that my melt ended with a little bit of a heap. Step 4. Digital magic. Now we are going to composite the LEGO details onto our clay figure photos. In Photoshop, you want to use the lasso selection tool to grab and select the LEGO character from the first picture. Click Command plus J to create a new layer by selection, and then on a split screen view, you can hold down Shift to drag that layer across onto your next image in the sequence. We essentially want our LEGO character details to be lined up on top of the clay, to essentially disguise the fact that it's clay and not LEGO. As the pictures progress through the sequence, we will want to break this LEGO up into multiple parts, because as it melts, the torso, legs and heads are going to each move slightly separately to each other. This means that we can add rotations or stretches to each separate part of that LEGO design. If you find that your clay neck is a little bit too wide like mine, you can always use the liquify tool in Photoshop as well to just nudge it inwards ever so slightly. As we edit our sequence of images, we also want to begin dropping the opacity of the LEGO overlay layers. I'm going down at 5% increments every couple of pictures. And as the melt is becoming a little bit more of a puddle and less of a figure, I'm ramping this up to a 10% decline every picture until the LEGO overlay is completely gone. This sort of makes the details melt away as well as the structure of the figure too. Step 5. Place all of your images into a sequence in your video editor and find some fun sound effects to add on. I went with some squelchy slurpy sounds for mine, but you can choose whatever you feel fits your specific animation. You can also reverse the sequence as well if you want, so that your animation can loop. And there you have it, a melting LEGO heatwave.